I've got my girlfriend and my sister debating whether to go uni or not. Is uni worth it?
It depends.
And you mentioned Barefoot running
Yes.
the marathon.
Just think about first principles.
Right. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. As you know, you're the first person, so thank you very much for coming on. So, just wanted to start. Would you introduce yourself to the people that don't know you? So, say what you're passionate about.
Well, my name is Krupa. Originally Polish. That's the funny spelling of my first name. What I'm really passionate about is health and fitness, for no other reason to just stay healthy and strong as long as I can in my life. Right. I try to avoid ego pitfalls. It's purely to do with just being healthy. And obviously, as any guy, you start with being a gym rat, ego lifting, doing some bicep curls in the gym. I'm still partial to doing some of that sometimes, but these days I also don't have much time. So whatever I do, it needs to fit with my lifestyle. It needs to be efficient as possible, no nonsense. And that basically brought me on an absolute tear of learning about diet, fitness, exercise, sleep, anything that you can think of that would help me get healthier, stronger. Does that make sense?
So, what age did you start being passionate about fitness?
Great question. Actually, I have a picture of my 11-year-old daughter was born 12 years ago.
Okay.
So I took this picture 12 years ago. Hopefully I still have it here.
Right.
It's when my daughter was born. You can actually see her in the background. And I'm sitting in the hospital bed because my wife got shipped off to get some blood tests, and I was looking after the baby in the hospital. And I'm just there with a big gut. And I took a picture like this just for the laugh, really. And it's scary how at that time I still thought I looked all right. Because it creeps up on you, And that was the time when I thought, God, I need to do something, right? And ironically, it started with me buying a house and doing a lot of work on it. I literally filled up about 3 or 4 skips, builder skips, full of just plaster off the walls. So that was hacking, then carrying buckets. This is quite a large place as well, which got me started, right? But what I actually noticed, I had my dad over, and we're Polish, so we used to drink a lot, right? So every weekend, after all the hard work, keep in mind I had a full-time job, and in the evenings I'd be hacking pasta, right? We'd have some whiskey, my dad and I, over the weekend. And what I noticed at work is that even though I was losing weight, my brain didn't work properly. I started feeling a cloud setting in, and the moments when I noticed it is when my boss would come to me and say, "Did you do that thing I asked you to do last week?" And I'd hardly have a recollection, and only when he mentions it did I go, "Oh yeah, he did ask me to do this." And I never like that. Like, you've worked with me a little bit, you know how switched on I am, or can be. And then I noticed, okay, I'm losing weight and I'm actually looking better, but there's something else, there's something more in the mix than just exercise. Does that make sense? And at the time, I didn't take any notice to diet. I was still eating, curry and pizza and whatever else went in. Drank beer in the pub normal, like a normal British person, right? And it was only after the house was done and everything did I really get into diet and exercise a little bit more rigorously. And don't ask me why, I can't remember, but I started reducing the amount of carbs I eat at the time, which then took me down more of a keto route. And then in the end, I started reading about the carnivore diet, and that sounded absolutely crazy to me, just bonkers. But then I actually looked at my current diet and thought, you know what, if I just took away this and that, I'm basically carnivore. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, okay, let's just do that and see what happens. And it was unreal. It was like my digestion improved like this. And what I took away was like broccoli with dinner that I used to have, with eggs and whatever else. It was just crazy. So I was looking into, and every improvement I did in terms of sleep and diet and exercise and everything else, it was like a multiplier in how well I felt and how well I performed, to the point now that I actually think you actually going out and exercising and lifting is like the smallest part of the equation. You can be super disorganized and lazy with that, but if you have your diet on point, if your sleep's on point, if your hydration's on point, everything else is easy. Everything else is just so much easier. That's crazy.
So on the carnivore diet, because I was actually going to ask you about that, what advice would you give? Because obviously I spoke about the carnivore diet to you, and speaking about what if I went on there for 3 months, you said about age being a factor. What advice would you give younger people to try the carnivore diet?
I mean, being young is great. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying that youth is wasted on the young. Yeah, it's a great saying, and it's very true, because we all fall in that trap. When you're young, your body can handle almost anything, right? And so if your diet isn't on point, you're not that much penalized. Even though we are seeing now, right, rates of obesity rising, you know, younger and younger children are being diagnosed with all these metabolic diseases. So I'm not taking away from that. But you can throw a lot of rubbish at your body and you'll still be all right. So if you clean up your diet, I never did it at that age. I did it at a later age, right? Yeah. So my question to you at the time when we were having this conversation is, I wonder how much of a like night and day difference you'll see because you're so young and healthy. Yeah. Because when I did it when I was older, the difference was like a punch in the face. I was waking up in the morning thinking, how on earth do I feel this good? Yeah. And every couple of months I'd introduce something, I don't know, cold plunges or whatever, and I just keep saying I'm feeling better and better and better, and it puzzles me. Because I know what it's like to be in your late 20s, as I said, bare belly, brain fog, zero motivation, zero energy, complete laziness, and then to go from that to waking up in the morning and just being ready and rearing to go and feeling amazing. Yeah. It's life-changing. It's just unbelievable.
So you left Poland at age 19. I did. Came to Liverpool, spent 17 years in Liverpool. What did you study?
I studied accountancy.
Accountancy, okay.
Yeah.
Why didn't you pursue fitness or health? Why accountancy?
Well, keep in mind I was 19 and knew nothing about nothing. Yeah. Right? And just to give you an example of what I was like, when I first moved to the UK, I was 19. I arrived on a bus, okay, Fraser Street, Liverpool. And I had 200 quid in my back pocket. I had no place to stay that day and no work lined up, right? But at age of 19, you're like, I'll rough it if I have to, you know, you kind of have that attitude. And my idea was just to work for a year in the UK, go back to Poland and study. Right. And I didn't really know what I wanted to study. That's one of the reasons why I left Poland, because I just needed to do something else and see what else is out there. But it was mainly money, as most people in Poland. You know, keep in mind, Poland only joined the EU in 2004. I was here 2005. Right. So I was part of a massive wave of Poles moving to the UK and other countries in Europe, just for work purely. I ended up living with some chaps from the Ivory Coast, and they asked me, Phil, why don't you study here? There's loads of like bursaries and help, and so that's why. And because one of them was an accountant, or at least studied accountancy in the past. I don't think he was working as an accountant at the time. He talked to me about finance, and it actually quite intrigued me. So that's why I went into accountancy.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And how did you find accountancy?
I liked it. Yeah. It made a lot of sense to me, and it was nice because it was a very defined. I was very left brain at the time. I was very facts and figures and that kind of thing. I'm not so much like that these days, but back then I was. So it was a very easy and nice ramp to go on. Yeah. So that's why I did that. Obviously, I ended up doing something else, and then things have expanded, which is what they do. Yeah, that's good.
I was going to ask you, because I've got my girlfriend and my sister debating whether to go uni or not. I was going to ask you, is it worth it? Would you do it again?
Great question. For accountancy?
For anything. Is uni worth it, do you think?
It depends entirely what you're studying. If it's law, if it's something concrete, if you're going to be an engineer, if you're going to be a doctor, yes, I think so. I think that's still the path. If it comes to law, you'd have to ask yourself, how long do we still need lawyers? Because AI is on the rise, and the cost of information is going to go down. It's already plummeting, right? You can just ask AI any question these days, and it will just give it to you, you know. So future-wise, but when it comes to uni itself, unless it's a very clear thing that you have to go to uni to do, otherwise don't do it. It's too expensive. It's too corporate, and I feel like these days the point of university is not so much about giving a good education, but it's more about getting as many people through the doors as possible to collect fees. So it's almost like a business. Do you see what I mean? And I wouldn't. I mean, I paid off my student loans as quickly as I could. So I'm happy with that. But other than that, if I was going to do it again, I wouldn't go to uni for accountancy. There's so many courses you can do. And keep in mind that when I left accountancy and I was looking for work, I really struggled. I found work in finance, but not accountancy. It took me several years to move myself from accounts receivable to accounts payable to accounts, accounting to the actual accounting department. It took me for ages. It was an absolute gauntlet. So it just goes to show that it's the experience that's key. Like everyone was looking for experience. Oh, you have an accountancy degree. Great. But how many years of experience do you have? It was a nightmare. And keep in mind, back then I was working in catering. I was a bartender. Okay, I did some, actually I did an internship for a year or so at a local charity, just do it in the finance department. And I think that's what actually got me the foot in the door in finance.
Was it 3 years that you did in accountancy?
Uni, yes. It was a 3-year degree,
Right, okay.
And when you were in uni, you said that when you moved to Liverpool, you didn't have a clue what you were going to do or anything.
No.
Did you have an idea, like in the back of your mind, like a dream that you wanted? No, nothing.
No. Absolutely cotton-headed.
Right.
Just, well, we'll see. You know, what can I say? I never had that kind of strong drive. Yeah.
Right, okay.
And
And then on the carnivore diet, what we said before, could you explain to any viewer what that actually is?
Oh yeah, well, that's a good question. It's basically, it depends how strict you want to be with it. The strictest carnivore diet is literally just beef,
Right.
or venison, with beef tallow, and fat's quite important on carnivore diet. You can't just overflow yourself with protein and not enough fat, because at the end of the day you run on fat on carnivore diet. I know that, anecdotally, there are some studies that being done that are proving the efficacy of the carnivore diet. But anecdotally, what I can see out there is that people who have the most medical conditions, especially if they are autoimmune related, skin conditions, even certain mental illness like depression, etc. Some of it, a big portion of it, is driven by your immune system playing up. And I know that a lot of people, Michaela Peterson is one of them, because she's had such severe autoimmune issues in her life. The whole family has, it's genetic for them.
Right.
She went on the lioness diet and she just feels fantastic, and she's just so much better off now. I think for most people, going that drastic isn't required. You could probably do it just to see how you go. But, I eat a lot of cheese. I eat a lot of cheeses, kind of like maybe if you can tolerate it kind of thing on the carnivore diet. But basically what it is you stick to animal products. No seed oils. It's all animal fat, animal meat, or animal derived stuff.
Okay.
Basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I read you're not even allowed salt and pepper or anything.
Well, to be fair, again, salt, no, you have to have salt. Salt is an essential nutrient. Without salt, you're doomed, because your salt regulates your blood chemistry.
Right, okay.
So this is some mistakes people make, that they drink a lot of water, but they don't actually take the salt.
Yeah.
And so they end up actually, what's that medical condition? Low salt in blood.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fancy word it, but It makes people lightheaded. It drops your blood pressure. So if you already have naturally low blood pressure, that's a problem. Do you see what I mean? Because you can get dizzy and all that. So salt is absolutely essential. Pepper, I use pepper. It's technically a seed. I seem to not have any issues with it. But actually what's been on my mind recently is just seeing if I can go on the lioness diet and see if there's any difference in how I feel versus my regular modified carnivore, let's say, that's keto. And then the lioness or lion diet. And see if I feel differently. Because at the end of the day, if I genuinely feel much better, then obviously there's something in what I'm having, whether it's the pepper or whether it's, it's still messing with me to some degree. And then I can make a judgment whether I want to take that. Because at the end of the day, life is all about sacrifice, right? You eat that ice cream, it's not good for you, but you sacrifice that for the pleasure, right? So you got to draw the line somewhere, being a purist only gets you so far in life, So
True.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then you talked about consuming loads of salt for you to drink water more. You did the 75 hard challenge, didn't you?
Yes.
You said to me, consume loads of salt. So 4 litres of water you need to do, don't you? So you said that.
That's right.
How did you find the 75 hard challenge, and what advice would you give other people to do it?
Oh God, 75 hard has been absolutely pivotal. When it comes to learning how important water is in particular. It was the two main takeaways out of 75 hard was the importance of water and salt, and the fact that no matter how tired you are, if you still have a 45-minute brisk walk to do at any time of the day, you will feel better after. Because we give ourselves excuses all the time to be comfortable, right? I've done enough. I've already walked. Do I really have to? But the challenge forces you, not just do it. And see how you feel afterwards. So that's taught me that no matter how I wake up and how I feel, I am almost always going to feel better after exercise. So it's like, it just basically took all my excuses away. I just couldn't have any excuse, I didn't sleep because of kids, and just go for that walk. You're going to feel better.
Yeah. That's the same with me, because I've been starting, so obviously 10 pages a day is one of them as well. I normally finish work, finish uni, go to the gym, go for a walk, and then get to bed at 10 and can't be asked to read 10 pages. I'm too knackered. What I've been starting to do is going on walks and using Audible. Do you know Audible?
Okay, yeah. Is that
using...
allowed?
Is it not?
Look, if that's how you want to do it, go for it. I can't remember the fine print, to be fair.
Spotify you can use for books as well. So Spotify Premium, if you pay, I think it's like £10, £11 a month. So you got every book on there. So, and you put it to 10 pages and it reads and then it stops. So I've been going on walks, listening to that if I don't have time for in bed. But don't know if it's allowed or not. But
to be fair, I think the whole point of the challenge is for you to learn something of 10 pages a day.
Right.
I think it's the learning rather than the reading. If you know what I mean. I actually, because I used to have an Audible, ironically I cancelled it the other week. I've had an Audible account for almost a decade. I had loads of titles there, but I've actually found myself not listening to any of it anymore. And I cancelled it because I'm actually gravitating towards books now. I find I just simply focus better. When I've got something physical, I can swing the page over and I'm focusing on what I'm reading. Whilst if I listen to Audible, my mind just flies somewhere else. So I suppose it's personal preference. If it works for you, and if you're learning,
I'd say probably reading a physical book probably enables me to be focused more. I think when I'm walking, I'm doing Instagram stuff, I'm doing Highlands stuff. Maybe I'm not concentrating. So maybe books are the way to go. When you did the 75 challenge, what books did you read? Was it on health, fitness, or was it varied?
It was personal development.
Right.
What's the word for it these days? Those books are everywhere. Self-help? No, what is it?
Self-improvement.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I think I read, was that on my 75 hard? I've consumed a lot of books at that time. Can't remember exactly what I did. But it was stuff like Atomic Habits. That's a good one.
Read that, yeah.
I read Jordan Peterson's God, what's that one called? Pivotal book about chaos and order. Was it 10 Rules for Life? Was it 10 Rules for Life?
I think I'm going to read that one. I think it's
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. It's extremely good.
Okay.
He has another book he took decades, I think, to write, which is called Maps of Meaning.
Okay.
But it's for real psychology wonks.
Right. Okay.
It is so dense with just information. It's so difficult to read. I remember I was blown away by it, but I got through, I don't know, a tenth of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thick book.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is too much.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
but it's not, it's unbelievably good. Unbelievably good. You could tell that he's just thought about every single word that's there, because he chooses his words extremely carefully.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, one of the books that I read at the time, it was a lot of that. What's his name? David Goggins' book as well.
I'm going to read that as well.
That one's unbelievably
What's it
good.
called? Is it?
He's got two now. He's got Can't Hurt Me.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's another one that he's released after. Can't remember what it's called, but it's just as good. Just raw and honest.
Right. Okay.
He is the kind of guy that will just ride the lightning to the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And he's just so painfully honest with himself about where he's falling short and what he wants to achieve.
Right.
And he doesn't care if he has to run on broken bones to achieve it. He'll do it, right? And every time I read his book, actually, that's how I got into running, by the way.
Okay.
I was already running, but I was kind of like everyone else. I'm kind of running. I'm giving myself excuses. I'm kind of fit, but not really. And I actually, it wasn't his book. It was his appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Right.
I watched the whole 2 or 3 hours of whatever it was, and it made me feel like such a BICTH. I was like, I'm just giving myself excuses to be lazy all the time, right?
Yeah.
It basically motivated me to go for a run every day for 10 days straight, right? Just literally, I think that day I finished watching it, I laced up my shoe and went for a run. He has that kind of effect on me, right?
Okay.
And a lot of people. And I was only running like 2K at the time. And it was knackering me every day. It was just pain, right? And after 10 days, I had to stop because my knees were giving in.
Right.
I had massive pains in my knees. But the crazy thing that happened is I gave my body 2-3 weeks to recover. And it's the first time I went for a run in my life. And I actually enjoyed it.
Right. Okay.
Because that gave my body the time to heal up, strengthen up. And so that the difference was palpable in how strong and easy it was to run. And that was like a breakthrough moment. Actually, let me tell you a bit of a tidbit about my journey into running at this point, because it's a bit of a crazy story. Ever since I remember, from the time I was a kid, I'd have a reoccurring dream of just taking off and running. And it feeling effortless, and the pleasure of just moving in space and doing nothing else but. There was something really pleasurable about it. But then in reality, every time I tried to get into running, it was so hard and painful, I'd just give up. And I think just running is just not for me. And I had done that about 3 or 4 times in my life. Every several years, I'll try to get into running again because of that recurring dream. And then that was the watershed moment when I realized, oh, I can actually run and enjoy a run.
Yeah.
So that's what really hooked me in. And that's what led into 75 Hard and reading all this stuff and getting stronger and fitter, to the point now where I will run the island walk, which is 80K, and enjoy it. Like, it blows most people's minds because they just think it's torture and it's meant to be. It's like, no.
Yeah.
If you're fit enough, healthy enough, and ramped up right, it is such a primal pleasure. And keep in mind, because I'm keto, I don't run on sugar. I don't eat. So I will run the whole island fasted. And I feel just tremendous. And I have no stomach issues, no nothing, because my digestive system's asleep. And all systems go, it's just move. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But keep in mind, big caveat here, I'm a slow runner. I hate fast running. I don't have an ego when it comes to pace and never check that. I just don't care.
Yeah, just move.
That's right. Just move and enjoy the movement. And so that basically keeps my heart rate low enough. So, because basically what happens for those of you that aren't aware, is that the higher you push your heart rate, the more your metabolism throws sugar in the mix rather than fat.
Yeah.
So even though I'm keto, right, the more I'll push my heart rate, the more my body will start throwing sugar into the fuel mix, into my circulatory system. And your body can only store, like they say, 3,000 or 4,000 calories in sugar and glycogen in your liver. But fat, you have a lot. Like you have hundreds, tens of thousands of calories stored in fat. Yeah. So if you run at a slower pace, you can basically run indefinitely until your legs get knackered. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, everyone talks about, like, I will run a marathon fasted and barefoot and never hit the wall. Like, everyone talks about this wall. I'm like, where the hell is it?
Yeah.
It's like, what is it? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's purely for people who run on sugar and carbs because their metabolism isn't used to throwing fat in the mix. So actually that switch that happens for when it's mostly sugar being thrown in the mix happens quicker for people who are on a high carb diet than for me.
Yeah.
For me, I have to really push it for my body to start throwing sugar in the mix. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So for professional runners, do you think they're on that diet as well, or?
Interesting.
It just varies.
I have seen and heard from endurance runners, ultra marathoners are starting to tinker with being on keto.
Okay.
Now, I think if you're a professional and you need to get through that finish line first, there's no point in being a purist. If eating sugar at the time when you're running helps you, and it will, it's like nitro into your engine, right? If that helps you be faster, absolutely do it. If you're like me, you're running to be healthy and for pleasure, I'm not going to mess about with gel packs and sweets, and I don't need it. I don't care. It's bad for you. It's just not the way to go. Does that make sense?
So just preference.
Preference, yeah, because I don't want to break any records. I'm not in competition with anyone. I don't need to go for every inch of, I just don't mind. So yeah.
And you mentioned barefoot running the marathon. I checked on the slider. We had 10 questions. 2 or 3 of them was like, why would you do that barefoot?
Great question.
And I was thinking about this yesterday. When you say carnivore diet, it's also referenced as the caveman diet. Is that correct?
I don't know what caveman diet means, but look, it's probably the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you could imagine caveman eating whatever it can to survive, right? If there's meat available, great.
Yeah.
That's the preferred fuel. If it's winter and you can't catch anything, you're going to be digging for tubers or whatever else, right? You got to survive. But Jay addressed the question about why running barefoot and then tie it maybe to the caveman thing. Yeah. Basically, throughout my journey into improving my fitness and health, I've noticed a reoccurring theme, and that is less is more. And if you're onto something true, you don't need to overthink it. And this is what led me to the carnivore diet. And one of the things that led me to the carnivore diet is, could it really be so simple? Because we are getting constantly, battered with food propaganda, effectively what it is. There's a ton of companies out there and they all want to sell you stuff. And that's why you hear stuff like, you got to eat the rainbow and it's all playing on your fear of, if I exclude something out of my diet, am I missing out on some nutrients? Do you see what I mean? And the reality is, everything that a human being needs, not just to survive, but to thrive, can be found in animal products. But you've got to be mindful about organ meats and fish, omega-3 and organ meats for the vitamins. You have to be able to take that in. Anyway, the point of this, and I'll tie that with the barefoot running, is that I'm actually noticing that there's a lot of corporate interest in selling you solutions to problems they themselves manufacture.
Okay.
So you'll have a ton of gel packs. They even sell ketone packs for people who are on the keto diet, which just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you're already running on fat, why the hell do you have to? Like, I'm fairly slim, as you can see, but I can still run and burn 6,000 calories running the island and not need to eat. I don't even feel hungry. Do you see what I mean? And so these products are being pushed on us. By the way, I'm going to be a terrible person for any company out there that wants to approach to sell their product, just because the less is more for me, right? Maybe with one exception, I'll come on to with the Barefoot thing. So we're being pushed all these things, and I actually noticed that it is similar with the gym. You know, they tell us when to eat. You've got to eat this before, and you're going to eat during, and it just doesn't stick when I test it on myself. It just doesn't stick. So I'm just going, okay, what's the further truth here, and have we evolved to eat and live like this?
Yeah.
And very often the answer is no, 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 no. And that's what continuously leads me off. What else am I doing? I've been brainwashed into doing that I've been told that I need to do. That's actually not true.
Yeah.
And running barefoot is one of those things, because we are constantly being told that to run, you have to have the right shoes and and actually with the rise of Vivo Barefoot, shout out, absolutely fantastic shoes. I'm actually wearing your office shoes. These are shoes that are almost like reinforced socks. They have no heel. They bend like just material, like cloth almost, right? And basically what I've found, I've heard first that actually, just think about first principles, engineering first principles. Did we evolve in shoes?
Yeah.
No. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so why do we wear them now? It's like, because we've been socially conditioned to putting aside the I might cut myself on the street of a glass thing, because that's obviously a real risk, right? But if you if you actually go out there and try to run barefoot, you'll actually find that your feet are super weak. And they are super weak because you put them in shoes, and your shoes are like coffins that prevent your foot from moving properly and bending and strengthening itself in the right places. And it also, what it allows to do, and actually I cottoned on this when I had knee problems, because I was getting into running. I was starting to rack up some serious miles, and I started having knee problems. So I did two things at the same time. I found Knees Over Toes guy. He's fantastic. He's an American dude who basically figured out how to strengthen your knees. He works with NBA players, how to strengthen knees to basically work for you rather than against you. And I got rid of my regular shoes. So basically I did two things. I started doing exercises that strengthen my foot and my knees, so that the load is carried by the muscles, not by the joints. Okay, so the joints don't get constantly whacked. Because what happens when you have regular shoes on, they're so padded, they allow you to heel strike against the ground as you run, as a runner. Because it feels comfortable, because it's cushioned, but it's completely not how your legs should work. The mechanics of your feet should be, most of the pressure should be on your front foot, so that the pressure goes through your Achilles heel, and then through your muscles. But if you heel strike, it goes straight into your bone and straight into your knee. So your knee's getting whacked with every step. Does that make sense? Now, if you've got shoes on, you won't feel that feedback, because the sponge is amortizing it, right? But the impact is not this. Is still there. It's just spread out in time. If you think about it on a graph, if you hit your heel, your bare foot against the ground, you'll feel it. It's a spike in force, let's say. But if you've got a cushion on it, this spike will be more spread out. So it's the same amount of force that's hitting your knees. It's just spread out. And I really believe that this is why most people find or get knee issues as they age, as they run, and end up quitting running, which is a real shame. because then they have to find something else to do, and it's just all good. There's no reason why you can't carry on running if you're running right.
Yeah.
Long story short, when you start running barefoot, your body gives you natural feedback of how you should make contact with the ground.
Okay.
And you'll hear in the running circles how cadence is important. And cadence is basically how many steps a minute you make, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they say aim for 180 steps a minute, 180 cadence basically. And when you're wearing shoes, it's actually quite difficult to do because you have to do it consciously. Because when you're wearing shoes, you can whack the ground carelessly. And because basically your stride increases, you're almost like jumping, right? Your stride gets bigger, so your steps are slower.
Yeah.
And because your feet are cushioning you, you get away with it, so to speak. So you have to make a conscious effort to make smaller steps to increase your cadence, right?
Okay.
When you take your shoes off, I guarantee you automatically make smaller steps, just automatically, because you will not get away with overstriding.
Yeah.
Because you'll land on your heel, and your body straight away will say, do not do this, that's painful. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, again, simplifying it, less is more approach. And that got me to go, do you know what? I fancy running a marathon barefoot and see if it's possible. I know it's possible because we've had athletes of yesteryear that have done it.
Yeah.
You know, some of the reason why, for example, Ethiopians runners are so good is because they grow up running barefoot. Therefore, their running form is spot on, on point. And then they'll put shoes on that will let them, you know, they're a bit spongy and whatever. That just accelerates them. You know, some runners get into trouble for having some springs in their heels and whatever, right? I don't know, but you know it's possible. So this is why I took on this challenge, and I actually absolutely enjoyed it. The older I get and the more I run, the more I'm shedding technology. Like, I try to not have a heart rate monitor. If I can help it, I don't even take my phone with me. I have no headphones. Basically, if I could get away with it, I'd be running marathons naked, basically, right? Just the freedom that takes, the sense of I can traverse space without all these bits and pieces of stuff and timing myself. It's just madness to me. Yeah. I just like the simplicity. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so did you go from, obviously you said you were racking up miles running, practicing. Did you go from that straight to marathon? Because I know some people go half marathons, marathon.
I was racking up miles. I had knee problems. I basically started strengthening my feet, and I switched to using barefoot shoes from Vivo.
Right.
Exclusively. I got rid of all of my shoes, and I bought a whole new set of shoes for work, for walking around, and for running, so that my feet get stronger no matter what I am and what I'm doing, right? I like to do everything or nothing. I don't like doing little bit, half measures sometimes they're just a mess. So it took me, I think I ran in Vivos at least for a year before I attempted the marathon. So I ran in barefoot shoes first before I took them off and started working on getting my skin tougher.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you're running the street, Vivo Barefoots will help you with strengthening your muscles, your ligaments, your form. It's all beautiful, right?
Yeah.
But if your skin is like a baby's skin because it never has contact with rough ground, that's what I did at first, by the way. I thought, let's run my usual 10K. I'd run like 5 10Ks a week, right? I'd run my usual 10K. I took my shoes off, I went for a run, and came back, massive blisters on the balls of my feet and both feet. Massive blisters. And I was like 2 months away from me planning to run the marathon barefoot. I thought, okay, what am I going to do here, right? So basically I had to scale down, take it easy. So it took 10K was obviously too much. So I started with shorter periods. I noticed that the kind of surface you run on makes a big difference. Because basically what happens is, have you ever had a feeling or knew that you're going to get a blister because you felt it on your foot? You know that feeling?
Yeah.
There's a point where that feeling starts building up, but doesn't actually transfer to a blister. That's what I was aiming for, because there's a feeling on your feet when you know your skin is getting really tired and knackered and you're about to get a blister. If you stop exercising now and take it easy, and you don't get a blister, you'll find that it supercharges your skin to grow tougher.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Okay.
So that's the measure, that's the guide I went by of how much to run.
Okay.
So basically I stimulated my skin to get tougher onto the run up to the marathon. And the week of the marathon, I think I clocked 80k that week.
Right.
Just completely barefoot.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up 2 days after the marathon. But keep in mind, the marathon itself will stimulate your feet even more to get tougher. Yeah. And I remember I have hardwood floors where I sleep in my room, right? And I took my feet, off and I touched the ground and I couldn't feel the floor. My skin got so thick, I could tell that there's contact, but it felt like there's some plastic on my skin. You see what I mean? It felt like through shoes. Yeah. It was crazy.
So you're saying if you get to the build-up point to having a blister, what you say, stop? If you get to that point, stop exercising, and then it will...
go by feel.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So the moment I'm feeling like my skin is getting aggravated, I know I need to stop.
Okay.
Because if I carry on, I'll get a blister. And if I get a blister, the whole training gets delayed, because running on blisters is no fun. I can tell you from experience, right? Because I've tried all kinds. And I did run on blisters, cream and all of that. Feet care is unbelievably important, because the absolute winner for me has been shea butter. Okay. Just 100% shea butter, get online. And just every morning I get out of bed, every evening I get into bed, I put shea butter on, and it keeps my feet tough and malleable.
So do you do that after you do fitness or before?
Every day.
Every day, okay.
Doesn't matter what happens. Right. Okay. Just get into a routine. Yeah. Atomic habits. Yeah. Habit stacking. Yeah. That's what you do. Every time, whenever you sit in a room, whenever I sit in a room to take my socks off and get into my jammies or whatever, the cream's there. Yeah. So every day I'm reminded to do it. Mm-hmm. So once you get into a habit, then you don't have to think about it. It's all about reducing this mental load. Yeah. I can see some people, I talk to runners sometimes, and they're all about counting their calories, and I have to eat X amount every 20 minutes. Yeah. And I just get exhausted listening to it. Yeah. You see what I mean? It's like, well, last year I ran it in this time, and this year I'm aiming for... And I'm just listening to it. I just want to enjoy the run. Yeah. Just enjoy the run, saying hi to people. Yeah. Like, this is the best thing. Just saying hi to people as you run past. Yeah. There's kids with sweets, when you run the marathon. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, when I ran the marathon barefoot. And I was this little kid with a sweet tray. And his mom went, oh, look, he's not wearing shoes. And I was like that. Yeah. And I think that was he wanted to give me a high five, but I didn't notice. And then as I looked back, because I heard them, I stopped and ran back to give this kid a high five. Yeah. And then I was like, no, don't stop. And I'm like, no, this is the highlight of my marathon. Yeah. It's like, I'm not running. Who cares? You see what I mean? Yeah. So it's just a different way of running, and I absolutely love it.
Was there other people running barefoot? No. I was thinking, when you were talking about barefoot, is there like events purely for runners that run barefoot?
I heard one.
Is it in Jersey?
No. You don't get enough numbers. Okay. If someone was organising an event like that, there'll be one runner. Yeah. Yeah. No point. New York does them. I know for sure. Okay. I've seen, you can Google it on YouTube, and there was one. And I did Google these things, and I saw, I'm not completely crazy. I won't do something if I don't think humans are capable of doing it. Yeah. It's as simple as that. All I go by is, should humans be able to do this? If the answer is no, then I won't try. Mm-hmm. But if the answer is yes, and we've evolved to do it, then it's just a matter of figuring out how. Yeah. And shutting out everyone else who thinks you're crazy. Because it's like, at the end of the day, I'm not asking my body to do anything it hasn't evolved to do. Yeah. From diet to exercise. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
And you mentioned habit stacking in Atomic Habits. Could you explain to any viewer what habit stacking is? Because I think we had a conversation before, didn't we? about
Yes.
habit stacking, because
Yeah.
I was actually on my way here. There was a song on the radio, so I run with my headphones in.
Okay.
Literally, I need to have music in when I'm running, and the song. So I only have, because I have Spotify Premium, and I don't really download any music. I have 2 favorite songs on my playlist. The rest is podcasts that I listen to. And there was a song on the radio that I always listen to running, and it actually made me want to go for a run. So it was just one song on my playlist.
Okay.
So I think that's an example of habit stacking. But could you explain what habit stacking is?
Oh, hold on. So you made an association between the tune and running.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little bit different, I think.
Okay.
Habit stacking,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So to me, the way I understand habit stacking is with some of these things, as I mentioned before, I help people on a fitness and diet journey, right? I've devised a 12-week plan where I take them from eating whatever they were eating to eating what basically I've composed as a complete diet for a human being, for them to feel amazing, look amazing, all that good stuff. And the hardest thing is not the knowledge of what to eat. I got that. I bring that to the table.
Yeah.
But it's changing habits. It's how do I get this person to actually make a change? And habit stacking is an unbelievably powerful tool for that. It basically means, let's just use a very simple example of, you've been to a doctor and they've prescribed you some pills to take. You're not in the habit of taking any pills. This is the first time you'll ever take pills. You're going to forget, right? Because it's not part of your daily routine. This is why routines are so powerful, because you don't have to think about them, right?
Yeah.
And what habit stacking does is basically says, okay, how often does the doctor told you to take these pills? In the morning and before bed. Okay, what do you do every day in the morning and before bed that you could stack the pills on top of that so that you do it at the same time together? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And what you could do, or I would do in that situation, is while I brush my teeth in the morning first thing, and before I go to bed, I'm going to take that bottle of pills and I'm going to put it right next to my toothbrush and my toothpaste. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that when I come to brush my teeth, because I automatically do it, I'm going to see, there's the medicine that the doctor told me to take, and I'll just pop one. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's habit stacking. And so, I used to take more, but I take, magnesium, I take creatine, and I've got them all together. So that, because I'm used to going to that place and taking whatever I need to take, right? So that's basically how you do it. Similar with everything else, if you're going for a run, have all your running gear together.
Yeah.
So you're not mucking about running around the house because I've got my bomb bag here and my shoes over there. And
I guess that's where excuses come in as well. You can't find this, can't find that, and stop.
it's a mental trick, because the easier you make it for yourself, the higher chance of you doing it. And the harder you'll make it, the more likely that you just won't do it. I don't know if you know this, I believe it was Google or Apple, I can't remember. It was one of those tech companies.
Yeah.
And you know those people at work that get spoiled, right? You would get told at the interview stage that you will put on 20 pounds. It's like, why? Because there's rubbish food everywhere, there's cookies, sweets everywhere, because they want to keep these people happy and on drugs, basically high in sugar, right? But then it became a problem because, everyone's overweight, and that's obviously not a good thing. They did one change. They didn't want to take everything away because people would kick off, as you would with drug addicts. Take the drug away, they're going to kick off, right? One change they made is they put everything out of sight. So lockable cupboards.
Right.
You can still grab stuff, but you can't no longer see it.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone started losing weight.
Right. Okay.
Because every time you walk past the kitchen,
Temptation's gone.
right, because you can't see it.
Yeah.
And just consumption of all that stuff went down. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's just psychology. You've got to play those tricks on yourself, basically. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
With habit stacking, I think I think it's in the book as well. They talk about if you're reading as well, leave your book on a pillow as well, on your bed.
Yes.
So when you get into bed, you're like,
I like that.
need to read. So I've been starting to do that as well. But yeah, that's one example. I think the running one was another example. Leave your running trainers by the door, so when you walk past, you're like, let's go for a run.
That's right.
But yeah.
That's right. I will sometimes, because I'm, I don't like to keep too many things on my mind that I have to. I mean, who does? if I walk into a room, I've got kids, so mess happens all the time, and I know I need to take this thing I have in my hand downstairs at some point, I will literally lump it on the floor by the door.
Yeah.
Because I know that on my way out, I'm going to see it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to leave the room.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I have to, you see what I mean? And I suppose that's an example of that as well. You got to, you know, you got to use every trick of the book, man, especially when you're parent. You got to, otherwise it's madness.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you help people on their fitness journey, health journey. So with this podcast, it's for people, so I put it into 3 sectors: fitness, people that I'm interested in, and people that have set up businesses in Jersey. So do you have this alongside your 9-to-5 job?
Yes. Yeah. This is my passion project. It's not geared to make money at all.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to turn this into a business. I basically, right now, it's all word of mouth.
Okay.
So I don't even want to promote myself because I don't actually want strangers to get in touch with me. Unless it's someone you know. Because at the end of the day, what basically needs to happen is, for me to make someone successful, I need to undo so much misinformation that's lodged in this person's. I don't care who you are. You'll have so much misinformation and propaganda lodged in your head about food and diet that for you to go, I'm going to trust Phil and not everything else I've always been told.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of trust. And I just find that it doesn't work with people that don't know me well. You see what I mean? People that don't know me well would just go, well, this guy's only one guy out of a gazillion. But if people know me well and have known my story, and have, especially people who have known me from before I was as fit as I am now, can tell us like, he's onto something.
Yeah.
You know, there's a period of time when I just started feeling looking younger. There was about 2-year period of time. I think I was 75 hard was a big part of it because water is absolutely key to your overall health, and you can really see on my skin.
Yeah, I think that's one thing when I'm doing the 70, so I'm on my 52 days, I think.
Well done.
But yeah, water is a big, I think probably the hardest. Alongside reading, I think, finding the time for reading, but I'd probably say 4 litres of water, because probably on a normal day, not even 2 litres of water I normally drink. Okay. So yeah, that 4 litres is probably the hardest that I imagine.
Tell me, it's because you've been doing it for 50 odd days, which is fantastic. It's almost 2 months basically, right? Which is a hell of a long time to keep up a habit. Anyway, my question to you is, with 4 litres of how did you find going to the toilet, the frequency of you going to the toilet at the beginning versus now?
Yeah.
Do you feel the difference?
Yeah, probably. I think the first 10, 15 days, I think I was going to the toilet at work. Literally, I think it hit, because obviously I start work at 8, probably 10. As soon as it hits 10 o'clock, I've probably gone to the toilet 5 times, probably. Now, it's going more down, I think, in terms... Yeah.
It's amazing.
But why is that?
I don't know. I don't know. But my sense is that your body gets used to using a certain amount of water, because keep in mind, you know, your blood needs to have a certain pH and salt level and all of that for you to just live.
Yeah.
And if your body gets used to having a certain amount of water, then perhaps excess just gets rejected. Maybe it takes a long time for your body to go, actually, we can retain a little bit more of this and saturate other organs and parts of your body a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we don't have to get shut of it all. I don't know. Maybe we're like prunes. It takes a long time to rehydrate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like mommy is trying to rehydrate, and mommy is going to take a long time. Yeah. But no, I found that as well. That's why I was curious about it, because it does drop off.
Yeah.
And it's the worst thing you can do is like quit after a week or two because you're just going to the toilet all the time.
Yeah.
Everything equalizes. Everything gets easier, right?
Yeah. Definitely the hardest out of all of them. I think drinking, I'm not a big drinker anyway, so I think that was quite easy. I've done I think I mentioned you, the 66-day Gymshark, so that's good if you haven't tried that. It's probably easier than the 75 hard challenge, what it is. I think there's only 3 habits for 66. And there's exercise once daily, whether that's walking, running, gym, read 10 pages, and then, what was the other one? I think water was the other one. But I think you choose your 3 habits. So they were my chosen 3 habits. But it's good. 66 days. Should try it. Fasting. You mentioned fasting when you're running. When you mentioned it to me the other day, a few weeks ago, you said if you eat loads in one day, you'll actually not eat at all the next day. Could you explain to a viewer why? Because to me, or to like other people, it seems quite dangerous not eating at all for one day.
Because of what we've been told all our lives.
Yeah, that's it.
Consume as much as you can, as often as you can.
Yeah.
Just.
Could you explain why?
Sure. So basically, going back to our conversation about fixing your metabolism away from burning sugar into burning fat. Once you fix your metabolism in that respect, your body can just draw on your natural reserves of fat. So you don't actually need that constant drip feed of sugar and carbs. Because keep in mind, for those of you that aren't aware, if you eat carbohydrates, your body's going to digest that down to sugar. It's going to hit your blood sugar just the same as you've had some sweets. So if you eat potatoes or pasta or whatever else, it has the same metabolic effect on you as if you had a bunch of sweets, right? Okay, digestion, there's chemical differences between them, but effectively from metabolism point of view, it's the same thing. And once you get yourself running on fat, like I'm keto adapted, you can actually skip a day of eating. And not only is it not difficult. Okay, I've got moments when I actually feel a little bit hungry. Hunger feels different, by the way. When you run on sugar versus you run on fat, hunger feels different.
Okay.
It's almost the hormone cascade driving both is different, and you can really feel it if you test it. And what I will do these days is that, for example, if I have a day where, I want to take something seriously, I have something important to do, I won't eat. And my energy levels go up.
Right.
It's insane. It makes no sense. But it does. So let me get to it. For example, today, I actually fasted the other day just because I actually cheated a lot on my diet. So I thought, I'm going to repent, get back to baseline, and just cut a whole day's worth of eating, right?
Yeah.
Felt unbelievable all day. Loved it. Woke up the next day, wasn't even hungry, but I did eat because I, scheduled eating. Anyway, today, I made a point of not eating, so I've not eaten from since last night, basically, until now, because I know that if I don't eat, my mind gets sharper, and it's almost like a caffeine feeling.
Okay.
Your energy levels actually you start getting almost on the edge, and I can't explain it.
Yeah.
But it's how it works. But then think about it, going back to first principles, okay? If you were a creature that's evolved to survive in the wild and you couldn't find food, what kind of a design is it? And your energy level starts going down if you don't find food. You'd be dead in a minute.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think if you run on sugar, that paradigm is completely out the window. Because it's almost like you have to drip feed yourself that drug that is sugar for you to feel okay. It's a bit like with alcohol. But if you fixed your metabolism, think about this. You ever see a lion on a nature show, and you see one that's just eaten, and another one that's hungry? Which one will look more dangerous and sharp?
Hungry.
Why? It's a hormone metabolic response.
Okay.
You have not eaten. Your body will tell you need to mobilize everything you've got to find that next meal. And I think, look, I've got chills just talking about this.
Yeah.
I think it's a primal response. I think this is the right response humans should have, but we don't because our metabolism is all broken up because we're after the food we eat.
So you say if you're hungry, better performance running?
Yes. Oh, running.
Or running or anything?
I don't know. Mental performance, for sure. For sure. Whenever I go into a meeting, I'm fasted. I'm sharper, my memory's better, I'm quicker.
Yeah.
Just everything's better.
Yeah.
The moment I eat food, even if it's keto, it's just not the same. And if you eat carbs, that gets even worse because your blood sugar spikes. And it's a famous fact that diabetics have brain fog.
Right. Okay.
because their blood sugar is constantly elevated and the insulin level is constantly elevated as well. And your brain is actually struggling to grab sugar out of the bloodstream.
Yeah.
And it starts malfunctioning. It's basically how it works. It's awful, awful. And the fact that we still say it's okay for diabetics to eat carbs, it's ridiculous.
And what advice would you give? So I've got me and a few of my mates that go gym.
Okay.
Say if they worked a 9 to 5 without some finance or anything, and they need to be sharper, going to meetings on point, but they still need to mix it in with, say if they're on a bulk and they're training hard, what advice would you give them?
Trying to.
I'm the wrong person to ask.
Okay.
Because the paradigm of cutting and bulking, it's alien to my way of living.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I have found that it makes no difference to my muscle mass when I eat. But I'm also conscious of the fact that when you actually eat carbs, your muscles swell up more.
Right.
You know, you get this in bodybuilding circles. They will cut and get shredded, and just before they land on stage, they'll sugar up.
Right. Okay.
Because actually what sugar does is the moment insulin tells sugar to go into cells, it has to just chemically, it draws lots more water into the cells.
Right. Okay.
So you will feel different if you've eaten carbs, and you will look different if you've eaten carbs. And if you're a gym rat like I used to be, it's all about the bloody carbs because they make you pump, you feel the pump more, and it's that whole thing that's just completely alien to me. So I would say, ask someone else.
Yeah, that's right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking if I wanted to be like more sharper at work, not eating, and also juggling fitness as well and gym. Yeah.
I have found, keep in mind, my aim is not to get big and bulky. I quite frankly couldn't care less. I aim for being slim and I aim for being strong, okay? And I found that a little bit of exercise, but often. So for example, every day I do yoga every day and I swing a kettlebell almost every day.
Right.
And I don't do a lot of sets and I don't do progressive overload and all of that. It's too much math and thinking and I just don't care, right? I slap some politics or some podcasts on and I'm on the mat just chilling doing yoga and then swinging the kettlebell, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed that just walking away, not even with a sweat, but if I do that every day, I get stronger hella quick, like hella quick. And when I do that, I don't particularly aim for when I eat. I eat when it's convenient for me to eat. I've completely decoupled me exercising from me eating.
Okay.
It's never I've done this, therefore I have to do this. They're decoupled. The exercise is there to me. I do my exercise whenever it fits me, which is early in the morning. I'm a 4 a.m. starter, right? And then I eat when it's convenient for me. Sometimes I eat before I leave for work. Sometimes I eat for lunch. You know, I've been through quite a long periods of time when I only ate one meal a day and I was after work. So I would wake up, do sometimes half marathons, go to work for 8 hours and not eat until after work.
Right.
And did I notice any problems, my wheels falling off, any loss of progress with my running? None that I can detect. And that gave me the confidence to say, do you know what, I'll just decouple these two. Because it seems like I'm barking up the wrong tree. It just doesn't seem to matter for what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
And going back to you saying that you help people on fitness, health journeys,
Yes.
when did you start that? Because it sounded like when you mentioned it ages ago, it's recent, or is
I
it?
started it last year.
Oh, right, okay.
That was the end of last year, yeah. I've helped a couple of people and it's been tremendously rewarding. I love helping other people. It's just finding people that will actually listen to me. That's the trick.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got their own ideas.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know. This is why it's more of a passion project than anything else.
Yeah.
But what's really exciting about that is seeing improvement that people made that catch me off guard.
Right.
Because I already know you're going to feel amazing. I already know you're going to lose loads of weight. You're going to have more energy, and you probably potentially you're going to be madder all the advice you've been given before, right? Is the bits and pieces that you find that you weren't expecting. For example, one chap I helped, he was asthmatic, which he actually didn't tell me before, even though I asked him about conditions. He didn't, because he said, you know, he's got this inhaler that he usually uses, and he found that because he only ever used the inhaler when he felt he needs it. So it was like, I feel like a bit hard, breathing's getting a bit hard, must be pollen or whatever else is triggering his immune system. Because keep in mind, asthma is an autoimmune disorder, okay? And like 2 months into the 12-week program, he basically says, Phil, I have not felt the need to grab my inhaler. I've just realized since we started.
Wow.
And I was like, well, really? And he's like, yeah. And guess what else? I only remembered about my inhaler because I actually cheated. And I ate some bread. And 2 hours later, I was reaching for my inhaler. And that's what reminded him that it exists.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, I don't know what's in that bread. Whether if it's people these days talk rubbish about what's that springy protein in bread. People with celiac can't have it. Forgot the word. People will be probably screaming at the screen, and it's Anyway, there's a protein that triggers some people. People with celiac disease can't have it at all because it just inflames their guts. There's something in it that's triggering his immune system.
Right.
Now, do I have to know exactly what it is? No, just don't eat it.
Yeah.
There's nothing in bread that a human being can't get out of meat. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And my suspicion is grains are being sprayed with so many herbicides, pesticides. There's so much chemistry on them, and none of them need to be listed as an ingredient because it was when it was being grown and all of that. But we just don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Yeah.
So this is the nice thing about this program that I do, is that the 12 weeks teach you basically the core human diet and lifestyle. This is what happens if you cut out all the nonsense. Now, I want people to learn how it feels and what it is. How they modify it after is entirely up to them.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't like working with people over the long term.
Yeah.
I like to teach them what I've got to teach and send them on their merry way.
Yeah.
So that they can, they feel that they need a bit of fruit in their yogurt for digestion or whatever it may be. Look, if you're happy with it, doesn't bring your asthma back, have at it, right? But the core of what I teach is what I found out basically throughout the trial and error, and just going back to first principles.
Yeah.
And actually, I just remembered, when you asked me about the eating and exercising, again, go back to first principles. When on earth did human beings have the ability to eat at specific times? That food was scarce. It was always scarce. It's like, you can't, have a look at a lion. Do you think the lion's got all this muscle? Do you think it can't exercise without eating 2 hours later? I mean, it all feels a little bit forced to me. So it just doesn't pass the first principles rule, which is, and I know the arguments, which is your body doesn't actually have the ability to store protein, as it does with fat and carbs and whatever else. And to me, it's like, that's true of what we know, but we don't know everything. And it doesn't seem to make a smidge difference to me.
Yeah.
So unless you've got some studies that point out that you retain more muscle mass if you eat quicker, and that's exactly what you're aiming for, great, go with that. For me, it doesn't seem to make any difference, and I just won't overcomplicate my life for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've got a few of my mates that just go gym just to keep fit, and they don't. I think a few of my mates, and they just don't worry about. So they worry about diet, but tracking calories, all that stuff, they don't do. They just go gym.
And actually, carnivore is perfect for that,
Right.
because you just eat when you're hungry.
Yeah.
When I teach people, is when I first have a conversation with someone who's interested in working with me, I will actually tell them some of the benefits of working with me, but I actually try to put them off.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if I don't think that you will actually take this seriously, I just don't want to work with you, right? But actually, one of the things that I say to them is, I will never ask you to go hungry. As long as you stick to the carnivore diet and strictly keto, your hunger works differently. So you will eat when you're hungry and when it's convenient. And if you feel like you need to eat more. And your body will let you know if you've eaten more, by the way, because if you eat a lot of fatty meat, your body will very quickly tell you when you've had enough. You just can't look at it anymore. It's just like, oh, I've had enough. Yeah. But if you introduce carbs into that calculation, there's always room for dessert, as they say. Always room for dessert. And that hijacks your natural rhythm of eating completely. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And with helping people, do you think you'll ever grow it to a bigger thing? Or is it just going to be a passion project?
I don't think so. I'm the kind of person who loves working, and I love working, but I love to work on a variety of different things. I'm actually quite bad at being focused on one thing and one thing only. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I would probably, this is why I only work with one person at a time, because that's as much mental bandwidth that I'm willing to sacrifice. Because if I'm working with one person, I'm only thinking about one person's issues. I'm only thinking about one person's arrangements and habits and how they help them and where they are in the journey. Yeah. I can manage that pretty easily. If you started popping more people on my roster, I'd start getting confused who's told me what. And I don't like doing that. So it's quality over quantity, effectively. Yeah.
I think the people that if you say that to like a client, I think they're more likely trust you if you're going with one person.
I don't know. It arose out of the way I want to work. And if it works for someone, great. If not, then there'll be someone else that will. That will. Yeah. So,
Right. Got a few Slido questions from viewers. So you mentioned 4 a.m. get up, training, work, juggling everything. One of the questions is, what is your current goals?
Oh, my current goals? Yeah. My current goals are, I want to run the Island Walk completely barefoot. Okay. It's a big one, because I've run the marathon and I absolutely loved it. There was something so simple, primal about it. I just loved it. Yeah. But first things first, because I've ramped up my training, I actually gave myself plantar fasciitis.
What is that?
It's basically inflammation of plantar fascia is a ligament on the bottom of your foot. Okay. That kind of joins your heel to your toes, if you think about it. Right. Okay. And if you overuse it, or if it's too weak, you can get inflamed. And the problem with having inflamed fascias and other ligaments is they're not as well oxygenated and supplied with blood, because they're quite white. Your muscles are quite, they need oxygen and everything, so they're quite red. Yeah. So they break down and they fix quicker. Okay. But when it comes to your joints, your ligaments, it takes a very long time to recover. Yeah. And your diet has to be on point, and you can't overload it. So I'm actually coming out of about 5 months now that I've hardly ran to get that fixed. Right. So long story short is I'm aiming to run the island completely barefoot next year, because I've already missed the window for this one. Okay. It just took a very long time to get fixed. And I've never had plantar fasciitis before, so I've made errors and mistakes with how I deal with the recovery. It took way longer than I expected. Yeah. And so it is what it is. But I've learned, again, I'm always learning. So I've learned a lot about it, and I'm waiting very patiently for it to go completely away. Yeah. So I will never have this problem again. Because at the end of the day, again, I'm running for health and longevity. I'm not going to push myself past, a certain point.
And the other question was, what is one mistake you made early on in your fitness journey?
Oh, God, so many of them. So many mistakes.
What's that one, so for like young viewers?
Yes.
When you were young, what mistake?
Ramping up volume too quick. Right. I think we all fall into that one. And to be fair, it might be one of those mistakes that you just have to learn from experience. Because I'll tell people, I've been told this. I remember being told, ramp up only by 10% every week or so.
Yeah.
And I never stuck to it because I felt like I can. But the thing about running, especially, is that it's so intensive on the body. It takes a toll on the body, let's say. And it impacts your joints, it impacts your ligaments, and it impacts your muscles. And all of those things get stronger and improve at a different pace. Right. So you might feel like your muscles have already recovered because they're well oxygenated and supplied with nutrients, but your knees and your ligaments need more time. Okay. And this is very often why people ramp up their training too quickly and get knee problems, because the muscles, they can do it. They can feel that the cardio is improving. Therefore, they feel that they can push on. Yeah. But actually, the joints are lagging behind, and you will not know until they give you trouble. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's all my questions that I've got for you.
Oh,
but
excellent.
Just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast.
No, you're very welcome.
First guest on. I was very, very eager to get you on because I know when we've met early on, we could talk for hours about fitness, and I think we're limited to where we are.
But yeah, really wanted to get you on, so thank you.
Fantastic. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. And podcast number 1. So if you blow up in the future, I can take some of that credit.
But yeah,
thank you so much for coming on, and for short notice as well. I remember I said last week coming on, but yeah.
Thanks, Macy.
Thank you very much.